Hello everyone and good morning. Welcome to Let's Do Research with Dr. S. This is Dr. Sara Namoko and I am your partner in your research journey. In this video, we shall be talking about the different types of survey research design. Friends, in a survey research, there are two basic types. One is cross-sectional study and the other one is longitudinal study. In this video, we shall be talking about the characteristics, the advantages, disadvantages, and the different types of each of these research designs. In cross-sectional study, the researcher gathers information from a sample that has been drawn from a predetermined target population at a time. Now, when we say at a time or one point in time, it does not necessarily mean one day. It can be a few days to a few weeks. It depends on the time that you have gathered. Cross-sectional survey has advantages. First is that the results of the findings of a cross-sectional study can be used to prove or disprove certain assumptions about a particular target population. Of course, it is not costly to perform and it does not require a lot of time. It allows the researcher to investigate multiple variables at the time of the data snapshot. And the data that has been gathered in a cross-sectional survey can be used for different types of research. Many findings and outcomes can be analyzed to create new theories or studies or to support another theory or another study. However, it also has its disadvantages. The results of a cross-sectional study cannot be used to analyze a behavior change over a period of time. Remember that we are collecting the data at one period of time only. So we cannot see the trend of the change in the behavior of the sample under being studied. And it does not also help determine the cause and effect of the variables under study. And if the research is funded by a particular group or by politics, it is likely that findings can be flawed or skewed if there is a conflict of interest. And a cross-sectional survey also requires a large sample to provide accuracy, and it is only effective if the sampling procedure is accurate. So these are the basic concepts of cross-sectional survey. Now let's go to longitudinal survey. In longitudinal survey, the data or information is collected at different points in time, or the collection of data can be done over an extended period of time in order to study the changes of the sample over a period of time. Unlike in cross-sectional study, we only collect the data at one time. But in longitudinal study, we collect the data over time. And then the purpose of longitudinal study is to analyze the duration of social phenomena. And it also highlights the similarities, the differences, and the changes over time regarding to a particular target population or target sample. Longitudinal survey has its advantage, of course. First is that a longitudinal study is favorable because it has the potential to yield rich data that can trace changes over time and with great accuracy. Of course, in longitudinal survey, it enables you to observe the changes in the behavior, in the characteristics of your sample. However, the participants in a longitudinal survey may leave the research project because of the period of time that is required to do the study. And this type of study can be expensive because as mentioned earlier, it takes time to finish the study. Also, in longitudinal study, there is a possibility of a threat to internal validity because of the need to test and retest the same individual. It means that the individual may remember the test items that were given to them during the pretest when they take the post-test. So it can cause bias in the measurement of the characteristics that is being studied in the longitudinal survey. Longitudinal survey has three different types. One is trend study, another one is panel study, and the other one is cohort study. We will start with the trend study. The trend study examines recorded data to establish patterns of change that have already occurred in order to predict what will be likely to occur in the future. So to do this, different samples from a population whose members meet change are surveyed at different points in time. For example, you are interested to determine the characteristics of the freshman students of the Bachelor in Technology and Livelihood Education. So you will observe the batch of 2018, and you will also the following year you will also observe the freshman students in batch 2019, and in the following year you will also observe the students in the freshman students of the batch 2020 and the freshman students of the batch 2021. And then you are going to predict what is likely to be the characteristics of the freshman students in batch 2022 based on the results of the previous batches. Okay, another example. You are interested to identify the fashion trend of the adolescents over a period of decade. So probably you will study a group of adolescents in 2010, and then 5 years after you will study another batch of adolescents, and in 2020 you will study another batch of adolescents. So based on the results of this trend study, you can predict what is most likely the fashion trend in the next 5 years. The next one is cohort study. In cohort study, the researcher conducts a study on a group of people who share a common characteristics. For example, you are interested to investigate the academic development of all first batch of senior high school students from the Department of Education. What is the purpose of cohort studies? The purpose of cohort study is to study the eventual outcome of this group of people who share the same characteristics. Okay, I'll share with you another example. You are interested to study what is the outcome to the health of the people who had been exposed to cigarettes and to those people who have not been exposed to cigarettes. So the shared characteristics of these exposed people is that they are all exposed to cigarette smokes. And the characteristics of these unexposed is that they are not exposed to cigarette smokes. And then over time, the health practitioners or the health researcher will observe them. What is the outcome of those people who had been exposed to cigarette smokes? And what is the outcome of those people, individuals, who had not been exposed to cigarette smokes? So again, the purpose of cohort study is to determine the outcome, the possible outcome based on the identified characteristics of the sample under study. The third type of longitudinal survey is panel studies. In panel studies, the researcher surveys the same sample of individuals at different time during the course of the survey. This allows the researcher to examine the exact changes in the behavior or exact changes in the characteristics of the sample that have taken place over time. For example, you are interested to investigate the study habits of the students of the Bachelor in Technology and Livelihood Education. So you are going to study the batch 2018. The same batch you are going to study over in 2019, 2020, and then in 2021 you are going to check what are the exact changes in the behavior, in the study behavior of these students that have taken place over time. Here is another example of a panel study for us to better understand the concept of this design. For example, you are interested to investigate the changes over time over the same sample. So this sample that you studied in 2018 will be the same sample that you will study in 2011, and the same sample that you will study in 2014. And over time, you will see the exact changes that took place from 2008 until 2014. And it's important to take note that you are studying the same sample of individuals. Now, to recap, a survey method has two types. One is cross-sectional study and the other one is longitudinal study. In cross-sectional study, we study the individuals or the sample at one time, at a snapshot. However, in the longitudinal study, we study the individuals or the group of individuals over time. And longitudinal study has three types. It can be trend studies, it can be cohort studies, or it can be panel studies. That would be all for now. Now let me take you to the references which I have used in the development of this lesson. I hope you learned something from this video tutorial. Once again, this is Dr. Sara Namoko, and I would like to say thank you and bye-bye.